Finally going to be having a look at the Bandai Pacific Rim Uprising. This is the Side Jaeger Gipsy Avenger. Gipsy Avenger honors the heroic legacy of her namesake as the flagship leader of the Mark VI fleet. More than just a Jaeger, she is the symbol of hope to millions. So how tall is Gipsy Avenger? Let's go ahead and take a tape measure. Putting it next to the figure is just shy, I find myself always saying that word, just shy of being 7 inches tall. Now before we get into the review and have a look at all the accessories that come included with Gipsy Avenger, of course some comparisons should probably be made, and I'm sure something that you guys would be asking about, comparing Gipsy Avenger from the Bandai release to, unfortunately, the very loose in the leg release from Diamond Select. I just had to bring the camera back there a little bit. There we go. You can see that there's a considerable height difference between the two releases. And we'll go ahead and take the tape measure again. Now remember, this one here was just, there we go, shy of 7 inches. This one, if you remember, if we put it next to it, is closer to being about 9 inches in height. So points can be given to Diamond Select. And actually, to be fair, while I do like the pristine nature of the Gipsy Avenger on the side here, on the left side from Bandai's releases, I kind of like the more scratched, dirtied up appearance here of the Gipsy Avenger here from Diamond Select. Let me know down below which one you actually enjoy of the two. Now, there are things that I do like about this one. The posability and some of the details I'll mention in a bit, but I think for the most part, from design standpoint and execution, I like this one, I think, a little bit more. Now, she does come with a fair share of accessories, which we will look at in a second. The only assembly I suppose you should factor in when you get her out of packaging is that you do have to put on the little wings here. So we'll go ahead and attach those, which I didn't actually do at the beginning of this review, but there's little 2 tab points there, 2 tab holes, and the 2 pronged tabs. Little notches here. We'll slide those into place. I figured if anything, I'm just double checking I got them actually facing the right way. No, that is the right way. I figured if anything, they would be probably, no, I did do them wrong. I did do them wrong. Go ahead and take these out. There we go. Put in this one first. The reasoning why I did not do this initially in the beginning of this review was solely just because I didn't think it would be easier to take them. I didn't think I could be able to take them out later by the nature of the way that they tab in. So I actually did them now just to show you that when you do get them out of packaging, you do have to attach the wings in place first and foremost. Because I don't think I'll be able to get them back out, which is fine. I mean, I'm not expecting to take them back out anyways. Okay, so having a look at her accessories, she does come with her chain sword. And we're going to do a couple of comparisons here. I know it's obviously 2 different companies producing them, but I just want to show you the differencing between the two. So the chain sword here, obviously, on this side is the Bandai release. On this side here is the Diamond Select release. And we're not going to do this with every single thing, but just so that you guys can see the differences between the two. I do really like the scratched nature of the metal on the Diamond release versus Bandai. Bandai is definitely a little bit more bluer, which I guess from a coloring standpoint is probably a little bit more accurate to the movie. It's not as much the blue-based gray, and it's a little closer to being like this blue, but it's obviously a lot more scratched up. So things such as the striping, for example, are present here. Here you've got some additional striping that the Diamond Select release had. Loads and loads of scratched away metal, and I'm really loving that. Sadly though, the Bandai release doesn't have that. Other accessories, which I should have actually had this one prepared. The Bandai release here comes with the gravity sling. And actually, if you hold on 1 second, let me go grab the Diamond Select release. I'll do the comparison between those two. Of all the things I actually did grab, I forgot to grab the gravity sling, but there are the two right there. They are similar, But the differencing does change when you look at the Bandai's release, where it's actually got the energy that's starting to form. The defaulted to the Diamond Select release doesn't have that. Instead, you see a much more better example of the framework of the gravity sling. A preference choice only as to which one you prefer a little bit more. Obviously, this one shows the mechanics of it a little bit better. This one actually shows it in use. And it's got some extra silver and stuff added in there as well. That, my friends, is the last of the comparisons. Maybe I'll bring in the actual figure later on when we have close-up looks. And one of the other things that comes included with is a pair of interchangeable hands. These are more relaxed hands and more flatter hands by contrast to the more clenched fists that is currently in the sockets of one Gipsy Avenger. Okay, so we'll move everything out of the way and have a look at the figure itself. Now, it almost seemed at first glance, and through pretty much the majority of this review thus far, that I praise the Diamond Select release, and I almost diminish my overall opinions of the Bandai release. There are merits definitely to be said for the Bandai release. If you're looking for a more pristine release of Avenger, I think Bandai's got the better looking, pristine figure. Diamond Select's got a little bit more wear and tear to it. But if you kind of want out of the shop immediately, like first out of the shop, this is probably your better bet to go with. And it's by virtue of that also a little bit smaller as well, so it may be easier to display for you. But getting a look at the figure, it's got some nice panel lining here, a lot of which was forfeited when we had a look at the Diamond one, just because a lot of that had worn and scratched away. The inner turbine here also has been giving a slight translucent, I say slight, it's not really slight at all, a translucent orange plastic, which the Diamond release was painted in. Okay, one more comparison, and then we'll be on our merry little way. So it's more consistently one color, I suppose, on the Diamond's release versus Bandai. Bandai's got a more breakup of different colors. The silvers are very distinct from the blues. The blues are very distinct from the red panel lining that make up all the little details on the top there. Diamond Select sort of just gets a little muddy. A lot of it gets blended together, and the center turbine here, the chest area here, has been painted in, rather than the Bandai here has been in plastic, in the translucent plastic. But a lot of more of the details are resonating a lot better on the Bandai, just because of its cleaner nature. And you spin the figure around. It still has the problem, unfortunately, though, with spindly legs. Not so much the legs themselves, but the sockets that attach to the, well, basically the inner workings of the legs there. They're a very thin little rod that connects to the ball joint. As a result, the figure does feel lanky, a little loose in the legs. It's a far cry from what we got with the Diamond's release. Actually, you know what? I'll keep the accessories right there. It is actually a far cry from the Diamond's release, which was excessively loose. The Bandai release isn't as bad. I mean, I can definitely get in a lot more different poses. One of the other things that Bandai, of course, has too, if we go ahead and take the back plate off, if you have, for example, the Tamashii Stage Act, a little stand post, you can actually attach it through the back there. If you want to have, say, the Avenger, you know, leaping or jumping sort of thing. It's not something you could accomplish with a stand, and nor does she have the peg holes on the undersides to support a stand anyway. So you can take one of those Tamashii posts and peg it into the back there. Just replace that. Coloring, it, like I said, is very clean. It's a lot more blue in contrast. The silvers resonate a little bit better. The silvers aren't consistent. Up here you get more of the metallic silver. Down by the lower, almost abdomen area of the Jaeger is really where you're seeing more of a matte silver, a matte gray. I wish it was a little bit more consistent, because like here on the sides, you also get a little bit of that, but I kind of wish it was more like the metallic silver happening on the top area here. All the numbers are very clearly present. You got 7385 on the legs. Up top there, you've got the CN006, and you can even make out the individual logo crests on the sides of the shoulders there. So it's a very clean presentation happening here for the Gipsy Avenger. As for the accessories, which we've looked at already, if you want to go ahead and change them out, they are fairly easy. Just simply grab the bicep area, And the best way, the best rule of thumb when replacing these is like, look at this little circular hinge here. That hinge faces inward. So when you pull the arm out, if you look at the socket almost has a keyhole shape to it, if you can see that. And that lines up with almost the reverse of that, well, reverse of the plastic, and then that pegs into place. You can only do it on this one side. So say, for example, you want the gravity sling on the other arm, you simply can't do that. It won't let you. And you'll hear like a little bit of a snap, a good snap, and you've got the gravity sling in place. Doesn't rotate. There's nothing really moving component-wise to it, but you can display it with that. If you want to go ahead and do the same thing with the chain sword, again, you've got the socket, the little hinge hole here, the little circle here, tells you it can only go on the one arm. So we'll go ahead and do the exact same thing. Pop that out of place, looking at the keyhole shape, and that lines itself up to the peg. And just peg that into place. The only other thing you will need to do for the actual chain sword is take either the hand that was currently in the arm that we took off, or you can take one of the relaxed hands and you can use one of those. So maybe we'll use that. And just want to move the hinge around so you can get in there. Maybe this isn't the best hand to be using because of its relaxed nature. It does sort of butt up, as you can see there, against it. So maybe the closed fist might be the better route to go. So go ahead and take the fist off, unpeg this, peg that into place. And in the process of doing so, replace this back into the arm because the arm popped out. And there we go. Just kind of make adjustments to the shoulders. Perfect. It's not to say that you would have to display Avenger with both weapons, but it's definitely a nice showpiece. And it definitely has a lot of the posability that you can accomplish here to get it in whatever poses that you want to have it displayed with. So let's go ahead and look at its posability. Its head rotates all the way around, but it does, I have to say, hit the sides of the torso. So you may want to just keep being persistent with it, and it will rotate all the way around. Not that you necessarily need for that to happen. A hinge up and down, head rotates back and forth, and a slight pivot. As it comes to the torso is on its own ball joints, so you can move it back and forth, up and down. Shoulders are on actually two sockets. So there's a socket on the interior of the torso, allowing the arm to move out and rotate all the way around. You have to be a little careful of the wings on the back here that you don't actually clip those and knock the shoulder pads off in the process. But the shoulder pads you can replace. You just pop those back into place. They are on their own independent ball joint, with hopefully the camera will show you there. The joint's actually on the inside there. The arms hinge out. You've got a really nice double hinge elbow happening here. It's slotted in two different places, and the hands are also on their ball joints. There is no waist swivel, due to obviously you wouldn't be able to get a waist swivel happening in there. And then the legs are on two ball joints. So there's a ball joint happening here that works to the inner cavity of the lower torso. But then there's a secondary ball joint. If I don't pop the leg off, there's a secondary hinge right there. And maybe popping the leg off was the best way to go, because then I could show you the secondary ball joint happening in there. So you get two ball joints. Pop that back into place. Everything snaps back in together perfectly. So you get basically a hinge back and forth. The leg also hinges outward. And then you've got a secondary ball joint happening here, which does lend itself, say for example, if you had something that it could stand atop of, you can get yourself in a pose that normally would not be able to be accomplished solely by using the one ball joint. You got a hinge joint happening here, a hinge joint happening here. Get your hinges here, hinge joints here, and then you've got a ball joint happening at the lower foot. There is no toe articulation. I don't know if my expectations are way too high, but toe articulation could have gone a long way as well. It's not to say that Gipsy Avenger doesn't have the means to get into some pretty cool poses, say for example, but some toe articulation could have gone a long way as well. Something else that I would have also wanted to see in this particular release by Bandai, and again, I'm not trying to be overly critical, is maybe holes on the undersides of the feet here. You, of course, do have the option of the Tamashii stand plug on the back, but, yeah, there we go right there. If you had only put peg holes on the undersides of the feet, then it would also guarantee that, say, for example, you didn't have one of those stands available, you could simply just attach it to any display stand that you may have kicking around that uses the same similar joints. She is capable of getting into dynamic poses. She's a little tricky at times to get her to and stand in those poses. To the testament of the Bandai release of the Pacific Rim Gipsy Avenger, she's a little bit more user-friendly for what you can actually put her in. The posability is a little bit more generous, and she is a little bit more supportive of getting her into those poses. Now, granted, I still think she probably could have had peg holes on the undersides of the feet, just so you could get a little bit more of a stable footing, but she's definitely not the rockety mess at times that the Diamond Select release was. I think if you want just a clean, fully posable version of Gipsy Avenger, Bandai's the best way to go. I still, though, like the aesthetics and the design choices that Diamond went with their release, giving a much more darker, grittier, scratched up look of Gipsy Avenger. So again, the benefit of having two different toy companies approaching this line is the benefit of having two distinctly different Gipsy Avengers. One is a little bit more cleaner, a little bit more posable, like the one that we're looking at right now, and one is a little bit more scruffed up, roughed up, but does have the limitations of having really loose legs. Today, though, we were having a look at the Bandai Pacific Rim Uprising Gipsy Avenger, which I might also add, I found at Toys R Us. I thought at one point I would have had to go online and order them because I know I saw a lot of other people having a look at this figure and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find any of them. I happened to go into Toys R Us one day and they had all three of them. So I picked them up and we're going to have a look at them in the next couple of reviews. If you haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button down below, make sure you do so. If you also want to head over to my main page, just do a scroll down of some of the videos that I've done recently and see if there's anything that you may have missed along the way. You never know, the way that YouTube works nowadays, that the content that we put out there doesn't always get seen. And that really sucks. So go to my homepage, kind of just do a scroll down of my videos section and see if there's anything that you may have missed, and feel free to check those videos out, and always like reading new comments in those. We're going to have a look at the other Pacific Rim Jaegers in the next couple of video reviews, so stay tuned for those. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.